I wake up every morning with a purpose and I see beauty every day in this journey. Learn to hold your head up high and be brave. It might be a bad hair day. You might see wrinkles that weren't there yesterday, but just hold your head high, be brave, and you smile and laugh. Something else that I want to include in this podcast, it's aging gracefully. Some of you compliment strangers and believe in the power of simply being kind. And oh yeah, we'll talk about the right clothes that make you look good and feel good.
Hello and welcome to Coming Home with Barbara McKay. My name is Andrew Rusnak, producer of this podcast. Now, you probably already know that you can buy Barbara's latest book on Amazon when you search for Coming Home, Recipes and Reflections from a Life in the Spotlight. But what you may not know is that this book is part cookbook and part memoir, and in it, Barbara shares all kinds of memories about special friends she's made over the years, and today we are honored to welcome a very special friend, Melissa Lattin. Melissa has a background in education and a passion for cooking, so it only made sense for her to transfer her skills to Instagram and TikTok, where she's a food influencer, sharing recipes and teaching others how to create amazing dishes at home. Now, Melissa can be found by visiting charlottefashionplate.com. You can also search for that on TikTok and Instagram. And Barbara welcomes her today to talk all about cooking on social media and what it takes to be an influencer and how we can all benefit from following our passion. Now, here's Barbara McKay and Melissa Lattin.
Hi, everybody. I can't wait for you to meet my guest today. Melissa Lattin is not only a beautiful, adored influencer on social media, but she is an incredible best friend to me. And I could spend our whole half hour talking about her talent and her kindness and her generosity and her friendship. But this time we're going to focus on her tremendous success as a beloved food and fashion influencer and how she accomplished this. Melissa, hello.
Hello, Barbara.
I am so thrilled that you took the time to do this because I can tell by your media posts that you are a very, very busy lady. And I know that from our conversations outside of work. So first of all, let everybody know a little bit about you and how you got started in the world of food influencing.
Sure. So I was, prior to this, a college professor before I moved to Charlotte. And once I moved here, I decided I did not want to do that any longer. And it took me a few years. And I actually started out with styling, with fashion. So it was more of maybe a fashion blogger at the time. And I always cooked for my husband. And I started cooking more and people were recognizing that. And I'm like, I think I'd rather switch over to more of the food blogging. And it's just been a passion of mine. And as much as I love teaching, I always knew there was something else I should be doing. And this is it.
I forgot to tell everybody that you're also brilliant and you have many, many talents. But I love what you said about how you switched over because that seemed to be what people wanted to see. And it's such a smart decision because if you give people what they want, you'll get what you want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, your husband, you mentioned cooking for your husband. Tell everybody, your husband is a fascinating person. So tell everybody about him.
He is. And on top of all of his success in the hockey world, he is one of the sweetest, most kind, generous humans. I am so lucky. Like I am completely every day lucky that I was able to meet him. So he has been in professional hockey his whole life, not as a player. He started when he was young, I think in his early 20s, picking up towels in the locker room for the Detroit Red Wings and kind of just worked his way up until he got with the Pittsburgh Penguins, where I knew of him, even though I had not met him, as head equipment manager, and his career just took off.
Well, he is, again, well known for what he can do for hockey teams. And we're so glad that he came to Charlotte and brought you here.
Oh, thank you.
All right,
I'm glad to.
Your background or your past experiences, how did those things make food a possibility as an influencing option for you? For example, I mean, did you Did you have any culinary courses? Was it
No,
okay? Tell us what made
not a
food.
culinary course at all. But so my mom, she was, I think I was 4 when my parents separated. So she was a single mom of 5 children. Um, and she cooked for us every single day. Even though she was working, she always made sure when we got home from school that there was a meal ready. Or when she came home from work, there was always a home cooked meal. And Sundays were always a Sunday dinner, roast, whatever it was. And I think I took a lot of that from her. Not necessarily like I cook differently than her, but I think that maybe cooking for people is my love language, so to speak.
Hmm.
And I took a lot of that from my mom, just how to care for people with food.
You are very good at caring for people, and I am one who knows that very well. I'm thankful. You have tell everybody where they can find you on social media, and then I'm going to tell them a little bit more about why you are so special. What is your Instagram account?
So everywhere, it's Charlotte Fashion Plate. So Instagram would be Charlotte_fashion_plate. Um, Everywhere else it's the same.
When I look at your posts, I don't know anyone that have every single food that you post, I want that. And I want it at that moment. You not only choose these fabulous, delicious foods and recipes to share, but they are shot so in such a beautiful way. I have never seen any other food influencer that does that so beautifully. And you do that all yourself, right?
Do it all myself. Yes.
How do you do that, Melissa? It's just amazing.
So I had to learn, like when I go back and look at posts from even like a year and a half ago, I'm like, oh, that was horrible lighting, or, I didn't edit properly or whatever. So I just kind of like did a lot of research, watched a lot of YouTube. I got lucky enough to be invited to a TikTok boot camp that was just for creators. And that helped me tremendously. It was a whole month and they went through lighting and just every aspect of how to create a quality video, even using your phone. So I just use my trusty iPhone 14. I think it's a 13 or 14. But it gave me a lot of information as to, how to place your lighting, what kind of lighting to buy, what kind of backgrounds, how to shoot certain shots. So I'm really grateful for that because it really did up my game in the last 6 months, for sure.
You commented that you were lucky enough to be chosen. I happen to know that there's a whole lot of hard work that goes into that luck. What about other people that would like that kind of training to do their posts? Is there a place you sign up for something like that? Or did you just, is it all by someone just picking you out? And
yeah, so they reached out to me and said that, so I joined their creator fund, if you want to call it, on TikTok. And so they reached out to me and said they were choosing, like, I think it was 3,000 people to take part in this boot camp. And if I wanted to, be part of it. And it was a little bit of a commitment. It was once a week, but it was about, I think, an hour and a half to 2 hour session. And they had different creators on from, all different industries, beauty, food, what have you. And it just really gave me a lot of insight, especially how to edit my final videos. Like that was always the worst part for me, is like, but now, like, I don't know what it is. I have this sense of what I want my final video to look like before I even shoot it. So when I'm shooting it, I always pick like a 10-minute window. I shoot in the TikTok app with my phone. and I'll take multiple final shots. I'll take multiple shots of pouring something. So I think somebody the other day said, that's too much gravy on the short ribs. But honestly, it was because I had to shoot like 3 different times, and it just, it just kept going on the plate.
They may have forgotten that this is your site and you choose
exactly.
the amount of gravy that you want
Exactly.
that you want to show. I know that you tried to help me with shooting these things, and I will tell everybody, it is so hard. I got some equipment to help me do this on my stove, and my phone fell into the pot. I had all kinds of issues, and it was very, very difficult. So what kind of special equipment do you have that makes that a little bit easier?
Yeah, so I think I've purchased many, many, many different tripods for, holding my phone. I think I finally got one that's got a heavier base. It allows me to adjust my phone in different positions, up, down, move it closer to the food, more away from the food. And then I did buy some extra lighting to put on the other side so that it kind of drowned out a lot of shadows, because it seemed like I was getting light on one side because my tripod actually also has a light on it. And that has seemed to help a lot. Flat lays, or lay flats, I think they're called, just kind of give you a more, it's like something you can put at the bottom, on top of your counter, and something that you can post on the wall. Just gives it a different aesthetic, and I can change those up. And it's not, it's not cheap. The lay flats are relatively expensive, as well as the tripods and things like that. But it's worth it to produce, somewhat of a more high quality video.
Oh, yours are high quality. They are beautiful.
And there's a lot I still can learn, and I can do way better, but I just keep trying and keep learning from other people as well.
You can start teaching now, I think. You have perfected this. You mentioned equipment and things that you get. Where do you get those?
I get a lot off of Amazon, and then through the Bootcamp, the members were allowed to, if they wanted to, become an influencer for a company, and I'm not going to remember it offhand, that does all of that. So they have video equipment and cameras and lighting and, all of that available.
Well, you mentioned TikTok, and that's the app that you use to shoot your videos, but I see them on Instagram. So
Correct.
Do they just transfer? Are you allowed to do that, to use your TikTok videos on Instagram and on Facebook?
Yes. So what has happened for TikTok the last, I think, 2 months, and I'm not sure that it's available to everyone, but I can shoot and edit in the TikTok app, and you can download the video without the watermark now prior to posting it on TikTok. Before that, I literally had to screen record the video before, and then go back and edit out, crop it to get everything out. Now I don't have to do that. It's much easier. But yeah.
From your success with this, something that all influencers aspire to is to have sponsors. And now you have some wonderful sponsors. How did that happen?
Again, it's just, I think, putting out, quality reels, quality videos. Companies then recognize you, or companies that are maybe a go-between between a brand and an influencer. So I just started to get a lot of brand deals through that, whether it was direct from the company or direct to a middle company representative.
So you began to attract these people. Now, Speaking of attracting the sponsors, you have to first attract an audience. So how did you do that?
It's difficult to grow.
Yeah.
But I think first and foremost, I've always been authentic. I just believe that, I make what I want. I don't necessarily, I know a lot of food bloggers and, it's fine. They use a lot of keywords and then we'll make a recipe based upon what people are searching for. That's never been my thing. I literally lay in bed at night thinking what I'm making the next day. Or I go to the grocery store or some store and get inspiration by what's ever there. I don't have a niche. I'm just, I make whatever I feel like we're going to have, or whatever I feel like having. I might ask my husband, what do you feel like having today? And that's how I do it. But I think being authentic is key, not buying followers. You can buy followers and gain, 50,000 of them and,
But they don't engage. That won't do you any good. They don't engage.
Right. And the problem is once brands, when you sign off or sign on to with a brand, most of them will ask you for your analytics. So they'll want to know what's your engagement. And, you might have 50,000 followers, but, zero engagement and, do. So I would say being authentic, being me, doing what I want to do, not taking brand deals just for the fact of the money. Money's never been my focus. And I think that's really helped me become more successful as time goes on. Right. Yeah, I love the money now. I do, but it's never been my driving force.
I think that's true no matter what your profession is. Don't let money be the reason that you're working hard. Yeah, just be sincere with it. Now, that's such wonderful information for people who do aspire to be a food influencer. Now, for those who just like watching what you do and seeing those recipes, let's talk about that, the food that you choose. I love that you choose food that is delicious. You don't think about a special diet. You don't think about, and that's how I approach things too. I assume that people can, if they have a special diet or special needs or special things that they have to be careful about, they know the substitutions to make. I think, and you do this too, you just find delicious, wonderful food. What is the source for that? What is the source of your recipes? Do they just come out of your head?
So a lot of them do. If I take inspiration from, say, another food blogger or a video that I saw, I definitely give them credit. But a lot of it I make up in my head, or a lot or some, just old time recipes, maybe from when, I was growing up, or like sloppy joes, for example. But yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. Like I said, I used to be so right brained and now I'm so left brained. And I never knew I had that creativity part.
Oh, you do.
In me. I never thought I had that.
You definitely do. Yeah, it's so interesting for someone. You really have a numbers background history. And,
I do.
And now you're doing all of this. Your videos are just beautiful. And the food is just beautiful. You mentioned sloppy joes. For example, what makes your sloppy joes unique?
I don't know that they're unique. I just think that it's a recipe that my mom always made, and I use the same things. And I don't know, maybe cooking them a little longer, a little slower, letting, all those flavors develop. But my husband loves them. It's probably that and my meatloaf. He loves my meatloaf. And I do have a special ingredient with my meatloaf that I think everyone needs to try.
Oh, do you want to share that?
I do. I will. And I do this for meatballs too. But to get a really tender meatloaf or meatballs, I always soak some bread, usually like an Italian bread or something, in heavy whipping cream.
Oh, interesting.
And I let that soak for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and then start with the other ingredients. So instead of using breadcrumbs, I replace that with bread soaked in heavy cream.
So interesting. What about certain seasonings? Do you have some favorite seasonings that you tend to just always have on hand that they work for most any food? Or
yeah,
most
I guess
foods?
I'm not a highly seasoning person. Like salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder are, my go-tos for sure. But I have a couple local, there's a local girl who came out with her own seasoning blend, and she makes a great smoked citrus salt. So I use that a lot for like fish. Um, but that's probably it. I probably a little heavy too on like crushed red pepper. I use that a lot in dishes.
Good to know. Something that I noticed that you prepare, and it's my favorite health food, and that's salmon. Salmon is so good for us.
Right?
And your salmon dishes are just always so beautiful. Tell us some good ways that we can prepare our salmon.
So I guess just not overcooking it is first and foremost. I simply season it most of the time with like salt and pepper. I may add some garlic powder. But I love roasting it in the oven. I just think it has such great flavor. And, you can do it at a higher temperature. Like I usually do it at 400 and just keep checking it,
About how long do you, so
if you buy like a salmon that you could also eat raw, like sushi style,
yes,
sashimi style, depending on the thickness, about 8 minutes is probably pretty good.
Speaking of that and choosing the right cuts of salmon or the right quality, how do you go about doing that? What do you ask from your supermarket or from your butcher or whatever to make sure you get the best quality? Do they have tips that they share with you because they know what you do and how good you are at it?
I typically know that a few of the fish markets around where they source their fish and seafood from. So I know that those sources can be a trusted source of freshness and the grade and things like that. Yeah. I don't buy a lot of fish from the grocery store.
Right. I don't either. That's interesting. I was about to say, I have found that when you choose, for example, at farmers markets, I have a very favorite fish person that I go to, and it is truly amazing the difference in the quality of that fish.
And just the flavor. It's got a lot more flavor.
Yes, every quality. So we, again, we love seeing what you're doing and how you do it, and it makes us so hungry. What about side dishes? How do you do a lot of main courses, but you always have these wonderful side dishes. How do you go about choosing those? And what are some of your favorites that seem to go with most anything, fish or beef or pork or chicken?
I like Brussels sprouts a lot.
How do you prepare yours?
And I just roast them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do bacon, but literally I just love them plain roasted. I just tried them the other day, just pan frying them.
Like olive oil?
They're great. Olive oil, salt and pepper, and they were fabulous.
I saw those. They looked really
green
good.
Beans. I like green beans. I love to steam like a whole crown of cauliflower. I'm sorry, not cauliflower, broccoli. Just with a little, salt and a little butter at the end.
And those are health foods too. And that's so important that you, if you prepare it well, health foods are really delicious and serve the purpose too. What about cooking tools? What are some of the things in your kitchen that you just can't live without?
Okay, I can't live without multiple enameled cast iron pots.
Oh, interesting. I have those too. The only thing about those, Melissa, they're so heavy to move around, but they work. Now, why is it that you think they work so well? I do too.
I just think they just really, depending on what you're making, I make a lot of soups in them.
Oh, yes, you do.
I just made short ribs, braised short ribs in the oven. I love that you can like keep it on the stove or you can toss it in the oven. I do have one utensil that I probably two that I also love. It's this meat grinder that I got from Pampered Chef, and it like cuts, if you're cooking ground beef or sausage, and you can just like grind it up as it's cooking. I love that.
Oh, no, wait. Describe what you said now. You grind it up as
it's like a chopper, but it's like a long utensil, and it like chops the meat as it's cooking.
In the pan. Oh, I was thinking of one of those things that I saw my daddy use that he attached to our counter. And
no, not that good yet.
I'm not sure he was either, but I was
I can't
impressed by
grind
it.
my own meat yet. But I love that. And I love an immersion blender. I think everybody needs to have an immersion blender in their
Explain
kitchen.
that. Explain an immersion blender as opposed to just a blender.
Yeah. So if you don't, if you have a blender, you can use that. But I just love it to I made, what did I make the other day? It was a soup. And I could just cut the vegetables up, roughly chop them, because I knew at the end I was going to, take this stick-like thing and blend the soup up. It works great.
Describe the stick-like thing again. This is your grinder thing again. What does it look like?
So this one is like a stick. It's like a stick immersion blender, and you immerse.
Gotcha. Oh, right. Yeah. It's not the grinder. This is the blender. Right.
Right.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
I've
and it's just you use your hand. It's just like a hand, but it's electric. And it just blends everything up in the pot. So, if you use a blender, a stand-up blender, trying to blend soup that's hot, you know how that sometimes goes. The top can shoot off and soup can go everywhere. So this is for me, it's an easier way to blend things in the pot.
And my wonderful producer, Andrew, just showed me a picture of one on Amazon. There it is, $40, and an immersion blender can be yours. Thank you for Now, I have cooked for decades, and I didn't know about an immersion blender. That is so much better than a whisk, because I've tried blending my soups with a whisk, and the food just gets caught in the middle of my whisk.
Right. Yes, this does not happen. It's got a great blade on it. And actually, I just got Black & Decker just gifted me one, and it's still in the box, so I need to get that one out and start using it.
Oh, good to know. Thank you, Black & Decker. Okay, we'll look for your brand. That's so good. All right, you mentioned soups. Oh, do I ever love soups? And we're headed into soup season. Tell me some of your favorites.
Lobster bisque is one of my favorites.
Yum. Oh, now tell me how you prepare your lobster bisque. Not every little ingredient, but where do you start with that?
So I start making my own lobster stock. So depending upon sometimes I can make it just with lobster tails or a whole lobster, and I just remove the meat, have the shells, and cook the shells in some water, usually Old Bay, different vegetables and stuff like that, and let it cook for about 45 minutes to an hour.
And then you just remove all the shells and things. And the reason I mentioned that, it's so funny. When I went to culinary school, which I went thinking people would care about that. No one cares about that. They just care about the passion and love for food and the ability to create these wonderful recipes, for which I'm so very, very thankful. But when I went to culinary school in D.C., he was showing us how to make this lobster bisque, and he just ground up the shells and everything, and that's not what I wanted. I did not want that. That is not how we cook. But I mean, his was good, but I found that fascinating. That's why I asked you if you took the shells out, because I would want my shells out.
Oh yeah, no, I do. I take the shells out. I just use them for the stock, and then I, start making the rest of it. And then when I'm ready to, after make my roux and things like that, then I pour the stock back in or freeze it for another time or something.
Oh, the roux. And that is such an important skill, to be able to make a roux. And it transfers to so many different types of ethnic cuisine. Tell everybody how you make your roux.
So basically, we'll take butter, or usually butter if I'm doing lobster stock. Mm-hmm. And I'll, saute my vegetables, my aromatics, whatever it is, celery, onions, and garlic. And then use equal parts of a flour.
Yes.
Usually just all-purpose flour. And then let that cook for a few minutes, because you want to get all that raw flour taste out.
Right.
And then pour my stock in, and then it starts to, simmer and thicken. But I have found for a lot of soups, the base is that, cooking your aromatics and your vegetables for a few minutes in some type of fat, whatever it is, butter, oil, and then making that roux. From there, you can almost make any kind of soup you want.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so that step is so important. And the one that you mentioned about getting the floury taste out, cooking it long enough to let it brown a little bit and get the floury taste out. Oh, yum. Tell us any other favorites that of yours, because when they go to your posts on Instagram or TikTok or wherever they're found, the food is just, every time my mouth just waters. And I don't know why you're not obese and why Osivia is not obese, because this food is just wonderful. But that's a perfect example. You are so beautiful, and they can see that from your fashion posts too. Moderation is the key. We can enjoy all this good food if we just enjoy it in moderation, right?
Absolutely. Well, here's my thing. Like, sometimes I'll get backlash from people that will say, you're making this, you're making that. It's not healthy. That to me, the truth is, I believe that if you're cooking food for yourself, that it is so much healthier than, going to restaurants. And I don't want people not to support restaurants. They should.
Well, people like to have someone else cook for them anyway. But but I like what you're saying. Keep going.
But I have found my husband probably 3-4 years ago was he's a type 2 diabetic, and he was taking the shots every day, like 15 to 20 units, whatever it is, and he's off that.
Wow.
He doesn't take any more insulin.
To what do you attribute that?
I do definitely attribute it to his diet. And, he has type 2 diabetes, but he can have mashed potatoes or, some carb or something with dinner. It's just, I just believe that what I'm trying to do, I guess, with a lot of what I do online is to show people that even though a meal may present itself as elegant and difficult, I try to show you that it's really not that difficult to make. And maybe that's the teacher coming out in me, because I do like to give steps. And, you talked about options. Well, if somebody has maybe celiac disease and, need to be gluten-free. So when I write my recipes, even though I might not say it in the video, I always give options for that. Or maybe if there's a vegetarian way to make the recipe that I did, I give those options when I actually write the recipe and put it on my, on my website. But I just think that it's not about what you make necessarily, but you're right, moderation. And it's a balanced meal. I usually try to balance everything.
Right.
And some days I make stuff with mashed potatoes and gravy, and other days I make, a piece of salmon roasted with Brussels sprouts. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's just a healthier way to make food and satisfy.
Sure. Well, you do it with such ease. It's a natural talent for you. But the wonderful thing is that you're sharing it with other people, and we can learn from you. So what do you think the future of food influencing is going to be for social media?
I do like this trend. Like, I got lucky when I noticed that a lot of, say for Instagram, they were switching more to videos. I mean, we've had this conversation how many times, right?
Yes.
We've had this conversation how many times, Barbara?
And you have found a way to lecture me again, which I so much appreciate. Truly appreciate.
So when
but people are listening, you might probably have picked up that she is a wonderful influencer for me. Melissa is a wonderful teacher and influencer for me. So as you were saying now, okay.
So when I saw that, they were trying to compete with TikTok, because TikTok was, really taking off, and I'm like, I got to learn, I got to teach myself how to do videos better, more of them. And I'm hoping that continues to be the trend. Like, I think I like the storytelling of a video more so than static post. If you notice, I don't post many just pictures of my food anymore. In the last, I would say 5 to 6 months, I have doubled my followers with consistency, with posting, fairly good videos.
They're great videos.
And so I'm hoping that that's the trend. I like to see people, I like to see lifestyle. I like to see people living their life and sharing it with people. So I'm again hopeful that that is going to remain the trend in social media moving forward.
On a sort of lighter note, but not really, there are negative people out there. How do you handle that? Because there's somebody not going to like something you're doing, or
Right.
it's just how they choose to project themselves with negativity instead of positivity, and it's difficult when you read those. How do you manage that?
I usually make humor out of it.
Right.
First of all, I have to tell myself it's not about me, it's about them.
True.
If you're going to waste your time making a bad comment on, something I'm posting, then it's not like, I usually come back with humor. Like it's my way of, I guess, lightening the mood, because I don't like negativity on my page. Like, if you notice, I don't post that, and it's not always, rainbows and butterflies every day, but I just believe that the more negativity you put out there and you post, it has an effect on you overall. And so I use humor. That seems to be, like, I think somebody said the other day, gross, or like, put the puke emoji on.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, you weren't invited anyway, so
Right.
So I just try to come back with, like, comments that are more humorous than anything.
It always hurts my feelings, but I then try to think about from where they are coming. And I'm always thankful that I don't have that kind of bitterness in my heart and head.
Right.
So I try to think about, again, gratitude that I am not feeling the things that they are feeling, and pray for them that you must be going through something really bad for you to take the time to send something to someone else that you don't even know.
Right.
Yeah. So good. I like your idea of the humor. That's a wonderful.
It's funny. Like, I don't even know how sometimes I come up with the remarks that I do, the comments back, and I'm just like, I can't help myself sometimes.
Well, that's good for everybody though, and including the person. So
it may be a little snarky at times as well. Like,
sometimes you just can't help it.
But I can't help it.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
What about those? Do you have any other advice for people who are aspiring to become a successful influencer in whatever field, whether it's fashion or beauty or food?
I think, as we mentioned earlier, I think being your authentic self is really important. Don't take brand deals or put something out there that, that you don't use or like, or just do because, a brand wants to pay you or not pay you, give you, free product or whatever. I really think that I've noticed a lot more influencers, especially on TikTok, not so much on Instagram, but it's still there. You can tell when somebody's being authentic and when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think everybody needs to be more themselves and just, stay what stay what you love. And I think that gets you a lot further than, taking any deal that's presented your way. I mean, I get probably 20 deals a day, and if I take one or two of them, that's a lot.
And making those choices is so important. And you're not going to be everything to all people. So choose the ones that are authentic to you
and also,
and your
like,
brand.
At the beginning, like, I have done a lot of free things. Like, in the first few years, I did a lot of free things, and I don't do that anymore. And I don't feel bad about it. I'm not going to apologize, because it is a lot of hard work. So if a company wants to send me a knife, for example, and say, we have these knives, we'll send you one, and then in replacement, we'll give you a code to give to your followers. I'm like, no, like, or I'll ask them, or I'll come back and say, is there, a certain amount of money in your budget that is also included with, the knife. And if they come back and say, no, then I just respectfully decline, because it takes me a long time to do the video and edit the videos and all of that. And I think now that I have some expertise in it, that you should get paid for it.
Yes, you have earned that.
It's like a job. I mean, this
exactly.
is my job.
Of course it is. It's a big job. And about how much time each day does it take for you to get your post done, your video?
All day. No, I mean all day. No,
all day. Yeah, sure.
I work really weird hours. Like I'm really good in the morning, so I'll work on my computer for on my website for a few hours in the morning, and then thankfully, I have a husband who likes to go grocery shopping. So if I don't feel like doing that, he'll do that for me. But, then it's prep, like, okay, when am I going to start this recipe? Because when you're filming and cooking dinner, it's a lot different than when you're just cooking dinner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Filming could add another hour onto, the entire meal. So, I just, when I take breaks, I work from home. So it's not, if I want to go out and get my nails done with one of my girlfriends, I can do that. I don't pressure myself. Although I shouldn't say that. I probably do pressure myself more than anything to get content and, constantly. But you have to, if you really want to be successful, you have to create good quality content and keep putting it out there.
Right. And when
people know that you're there and you're,
when you love what you're doing, it's not really like work.
Yeah, it's not.
But it does take a lot of time that I'm not sure everybody understands how much time that it does take. Anything else that you would like to share before we go? I also want you to make sure that you share your website and, again, your addresses on TikTok and on Instagram.
So I do have a few tips.
Oh, good.
I thought I would just share that.
I would love that. We would all love that.
About engagement, because I think one of the things we talked about, one of the questions were, how do you engage with your followers?
Yes.
And I learned a little trick. And
it's
really been helping me on Instagram. And this could be for any person, content creator or influencer. But if you want to engage more with your audience, I've been making my posts, I don't know if you've noticed, to where, I said comment with a fish or comment yes, and I'll send you the direct link to the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And that my engagement is up tremendously for that. Because when it's hard when you are on a social media platform. This is what I've learned. If you're on Instagram wants to keep you on that platform, right?
Right.
So they make it a little bit more difficult for somebody to go, okay, I got 10 minutes. I'm going to scroll and see what's new on Instagram. And they come across one of my recipes, right?
Yes.
And I put in there, click the link in my bio. Well, first of all, Instagram doesn't like that wording. They don't like click the link in my bio, because that tells them you're trying to take somebody off my platform to go to yours. So I've noticed then if I say comment yes or you want the recipe. So they've commented, I comment back and let them know that I've placed their recipe or placed the recipe they requested in their direct message. And then now that Instagram saw that somebody is engaging with me on that post that I just made, they're going to toss it out to more people. And then more people start commenting.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I want the recipe. And so I start commenting back. And you want to be on Instagram, I've noticed. You don't want more than an hour to go, if possible, between somebody commenting and you actually responding. And then once more people start, then Instagram throws it out to more people. And
they are rewarding you for keeping them engaged with their audience.
Yes. And I've just noticed that people just don't like to go to the link in bio. I mean, it really takes a lot. I have it, I use it. But I've noticed this has really been more significant than doing it like the old fashioned way. So maybe that's a new and
that's
trend.
that's a really, really, really good
Yeah.
So so you mentioned, where do you mention that about that you will direct message them? You put it in your post.
I put it in the post.
In the
So yeah.
caption.
And I will tell you also, there's been a lot of discussion lately about AI, artificial intelligence, and using like Chat GTP, or I think it's Bard for Google. But I do use that sometimes to help me generate a caption, because you can actually ask Chat GTP, I'm putting such and such recipe. Can you help me with a caption that includes keywords? Because right now, Instagram's not focusing on hashtags as much. They want to see the keywords to whatever is in that post. And that
without a hashtag, just wording in the post.
Yeah, I still use them, but you also want to use, like, the opening line should be something catchy, like, here's your dinner tonight, or, something like that engages them, or stop scrolling, or something, and then have, some AI help you generate a caption. And you can, give them a command, generate a caption for a recipe for lobster bisque using, short and long tail keywords. So basically it's becoming now, Instagram is more of like, not Google, but kind of like a Google. Like you could go there, like you do Pinterest, and search for a particular recipe. And if somebody has the right wording in there, yours will pop up.
Tell me, when they ask for that recipe, what form do you send it? How do you, because I'm sure you get hundreds of those requests.
I do. I know.
How do you answer that? I mean, do you have something? Do you have a copy and paste?
Yeah, that's what I do. Right now I do. I think there are some applications that you might be able to use, but that's too much for me to even get into right now. So basically what I do is I have like some windows open, and I just go and copy and paste the recipe and, place it in their direct message.
Okay. Well, we could talk forever, as always. You are just, I hope everybody has sensed what I know. In addition to your talent and your brilliance and your beauty and all of those things, you're so generous. You are so successful, and you are happy to share how you became successful and help other people to do the same. And that's a wonderful, wonderful quality, Melissa, along with all of your other wonderful ones. So thank you for this time.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate our friendship. I am so glad that we met, 2 years ago?
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how there are certain people that at this stage in our lives that it doesn't take long. In just a moment, you realize someone shares your values and shares your interest, and is someone who is immediately trustworthy of your friendship. And you are one of those. And I'm just so grateful.
Even when we started working together, it was like I was you. Like I knew what was in your head.
I have never seen anything like it. It was just amazing. You said, it's like, wait, that's what I was thinking, but you said it so perfectly. Well, you are a person of many, many talents, and I thank you. I always like to close my podcast with a little scripture that relates to maybe what we're talking about. And I found this, and I think you'll like it too, Melissa. This is from Ecclesiastes 9. Chapter 9, verse 7, and it says, "Go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart." So that's what we encourage people to do, with gladness and joy. Enjoy what you're doing. And you do that, Melissa. Thank you so, so much. And everybody, you go find Charlotte Fashion Plate.
Thank you.